Hi everyone. Welcome to the our next podcast, Hub Holos with City Hub Ukraine. Today we have 4 ladies with us that are, I call them British Ukrainians, and obviously all got Ukrainian heritage. So we just like to say hello to Oksana, Christina, Maria and Anna. Anna you'll all know from our previous podcasts, anchoring and introducing. But now we're here to find out more about them as British Ukrainians. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so you was all born in the UK?
Yes.
Yeah.
British born.
And both parents Ukrainian?
No. Yes.
No. Yes. And
yes.
No.
Mix of both.
So Anna, you're the no.
Yeah. So I was born here, and my mum was English, my dad was Ukrainian.
And so did they meet here?
They did meet here, yeah.
So that was after, obviously your dad had come over.
After the Second World War, he ended up, having left Ukraine, ended up in a camp in Rimini in Italy, and then they were all shipped over here, and he was in a camp. And then eventually, things changed, and they all started to get jobs and go out and meet people. And he met my mum. My mum's family treated him like part of the family, which I know not every person had that kind of experience. But, they were very good to my dad, and he celebrated his 21st birthday as a family with my grandma and grandparents. Oh. So yes, that was us.
That's lovely. So, and Maria, so you different heritage on?
Yeah, my mother's was Irish. My parents met in Loughborough. My mum worked because lots of Irish were over here because of the British occupying Ireland, and she worked in the Loughborough Hospital, and my dad was in the local camp, and he was a prisoner of war as well. In the camp in Rimini, came over in 1948. I think they were classed as like aliens or something, sort of a status that they had, and they had to report to somewhere to...
They had alien passports
to the police.
or ID cards.
Yeah, and then they got the permission to get work and settle in the country, basically. Yeah.
I find it also fascinating because I've just got such a normal British, heritage and upbringing, and nothing sort of odd that I know about anyway, or different. But
I'll just say something funny that my children used to say, because we used to call them Baba and Dido. How did you understand each other when you first met? Because when I've been to Ireland, because I don't understand a word they said in Ireland, and obviously my dad was just learning English, and they said, how did you ever understand each other at the very beginning? That was hilarious.
That's really interesting, yeah. So obviously Oksana and Christina, then both parents are Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And did they meet here or?
My mum and dad actually knew each other back in Ukraine. But then when they went their own ways, my dad went to Rimini, the camp. Mum went through Germany and the camp in Germany. And then they met in Horbling in Lincolnshire, just at a arranged Ukrainian meet-up dance. And that's how they reunited.
Oh, that's lovely.
So it's quite a sweet story after all those years.
Oh. How many years was that then in between? From them knowing each other to meeting, do you know?
Not sure exactly. It would have been about 4 or 5 years, at least. But I've still got the photographs where they wrote to each other. Yeah. And I've still got the photos.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, lovely.
Different for yours?
Yeah, it was different for mum and dad because dad was taken in by the Germans into slave labour. So he worked in various areas in Germany. Some of the stories he told us were quite disturbing. But eventually, when the war finished, he managed to get onto the English side in Germany, because otherwise you would have been taken into Siberia and that would have been it. So he managed somehow to get into the English side, found himself on a boat to London, And then from London, he always tells me, when I landed, he said, I got £1, a tin of sardines and a blanket. That's what we were all given.
Yes.
And he found himself, to start with, in Edinburgh. So he got shipped up all the way to Edinburgh, where he had a 6-week crash course in carpentry, and taught you some rudimentary English. But actually he found himself working in the mines, coal mines. So he worked his way down England, made friends in different cities, and then he ended up in Nottingham, and he liked it here, and he decided to stay. When my mum came in, he obviously wanted to marry a Ukrainian girl, and he knew somebody who knew my mum, and they became pen pals. And mum was actually forcibly moved from where she lived in a place called Mokre, which is southeast or southwest of Ukraine, bordering with Poland. And she was moved under something called Akcja Wisla, which is Operation Akcja. So they were forcibly removed from their homes, and she found herself with her mum and her siblings living in the north of Poland. So my dad's got the address to my mum. They exchanged letters, and my mum decided that she was going to come to England. She came across for 6 weeks, and she decided that she was going to stay, and they're married. And the rest is history.
And so the story goes.
And so the story goes.
Lovely stories out of the horrible situations that they came from in the first place, which obviously will be happening a lot now as well. So then
just to add to them, your father wanting to find the English, the same happened with if you were in the Ukrainian division of the German army. When the war finished, all they could think about was finding the British or the Americans, because they knew if they got caught by the Russians, they'd be sent to Siberia. So they just had to find, the British and hopefully be captured by them, as opposed to the Russians.
I know when I think I'd heard from my dad that when they were in Rimini, there was a lot of talk about people being allowed to go back to Ukraine, being promised, oh, you want to be back with your family again, see your family and all of that. And some of them actually believed that that's what would happen. Most didn't, fortunately, because those that did go back, that's not where they ended up.
It was when the Russians came to the camps and said, oh, give us back our brothers. It was what citizenship were you in 1939? Of course, Western Ukraine was under Polish rule, so they were classified as Polish citizens,
so they couldn't be
and they couldn't be forced to go back. But there's a big story about it with, was it the Yalta Agreement, where they forcibly were sent back, and women and children threw themselves off trains and stuff, because they'd rather than go back under Soviet rule, they'd rather, which was really sad, but
very sad.
Yeah.
Tragic stories.
Yeah.
But from your parents' lovely sort of meetings and love stories, obviously you, and if you've got siblings, obviously arrived. So growing up then in wherever you were born, did your family stay very much with Ukrainian traditions?
Yes.
The community evolved really, because all the Ukrainians grouped together, and they wanted to obviously stay together because it gave them strength in numbers. And obviously you could then continue with your Ukrainian heritage. So there was a community area was created. There was a club. They had a school, so we had to go to Saturday school where we
church.
There was church, so we were quite, faith was very, very deep.
Did you all know each other as younger people?
No, because I'm of a different age group.
Yeah.
It's 10 years difference.
I'm the baby in the group.
Me and Maria knew more of each other because we went to scout camp together in Wales. So 3 weeks we were always.
I knew Anna because I knew her dad, because her dad taught me how to play the mandolin. So he had a number of musical groups and choirs and everything, and that's where it all evolved, and that's how our Ukrainian heritage continued really through what we did for ourselves. And obviously our parents were keen that we learnt the traditions and the customs and knew what our history was. And, you know, even though we might have married, you know, non-Ukrainians, I have.
Yeah.
And that, but even then, you know, they want to know the culture, and the culture's continued. You know.
And they're respectful
Yeah, they respect the culture that we've
of
got.
the culture.
But it was very important because obviously most of Ukraine was then within the Soviet Union and everything was Russified, so it was important for them to keep the dancing going, the choirs singing going, all the songs. That was very important because of the Russification in Ukraine.
Definitely, that's amazing. Such a strong will, which that's what I've seen from meeting so many Ukrainians over this last 4 years, is the
Tenacity.
strength and tenacity.
Yeah. But even though, you know, and I'm sure this is for everybody, even though we had family across there, whatever we could earn here, we would be sending stuff back to them. So we would be sending parcels, food,
and that's
clothes.
happening again now.
And that's happening again. So it's, you know, it's almost like history repeating itself.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I remember in my family, my dad's cousin and her husband, they had spent time in Siberia, had a dreadful time, but he was a tailor, and so the stuff that we used to send over, it was always fabric, because then he could make
his
things.
own.
He could make all, you know, suits or whatever was needed.
Or they'd sell
not
it.
just for themselves, but to sell.
Yeah, to make
To
money.
sell it to
Yeah.
make
Food.
money so they could buy food or grain or whatever for the farm.
Yes.
So it was all a bartering system.
We didn't have any contact with my grandma for years, but we had a contact in Poland, and so she would take money over for them, clothes and items, or she'd sell things and then give them the money, because there was no contact allowed for years.
No.
I mean, the only communication, I think the first communication between my dad and his mum was through the Red Cross. And I think that's probably the same for a lot of people.
I
the
can't
Red
remember.
Cross that
1950s.
connected them.
Maybe.
Yes, it was.
But it was
19
very much letters, and letters coming from Ukraine. But sometimes, or most of the time probably, they were opened before they got here.
They were.
Censored. Parcels, because my dad was into his music and everything, his mum used to send music books, Ukrainian music books, and you could see where pages had been torn out. So and that went on for a long time, and of course they couldn't go back. There wasn't a chance to go back, and at that point Ukrainians couldn't travel either.
No.
So, you know, that was the only form of communication, and I only knew my grandma and the rest of the family by letter and photographs. And I know when my grandma died, my dad just got a telegram.
I think it's
And
the same, the
you
same
know,
for all of us. When you think, our parents left when they're in their 20s, saying bye to your mother, never knowing that you're never going to see your mother
My dad
again.
was 16.
My dad was 16.
Yeah.
He never saw his mum again.
Yeah, never saw them again.
They thought they were only going for a little while. They were coming back in a week's time.
And that hit home when I thought about my son, and when he was like, 20, thinking like, I'd say bye, and you never see them again.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the heritage and the culture, I think even our generation, we've been really strong in continuing it. I mean, like, we had our folk groups, we had dance groups, and we travelled far and wide with it.
I've heard of a few of those.
Yeah, so we travelled. We were really lucky. I mean, that's something I really look back on, because we were part of a church. We had our own folk group here, but we were also part of a church choir which was based in Oldham. And in 1992, when the year after of independence for Ukraine, there was 3 generations of British Ukrainians went to Ukraine. And it was like 2 coachloads, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about this.
Yeah, and it was unbelievable, And as soon as we hit the border, everybody opened the windows and we were singing the national anthem. And
That was the first time I saw my grandma.
Yeah.
And only for a day, because obviously we had a tight schedule.
Yeah.
But we
But
got
it-
to spend a day with our family if
Yeah.
you were in that city
Oh my
or
gosh.
town, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Fortunately, my children were 5, 7 and 9 or something like that. So they sang and on the stages and where we sang,
performed
didn't they?
together, yeah,
Performed
Kiev,
together, all the
Lviv,
children, because we all took
all
our
over
children
places.
with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh, that's a really joyful, happy time.
Yeah.
So when you growing up, and did you ever feel different or know that you were different from other people in
Yeah.
whatever cities or towns you was growing up at the time?
Well, you felt enriched actually that you had two cultures.
Yeah.
I never felt, what's the word?
You
There
were
wasn't
foreign.
a negative.
Well, I didn't feel
No, that's
anything
good.
negative.
Uh-huh.
I sometimes felt as though I fitted, at certain times I fitted better into the English side of the family, and then at other times I felt more Ukrainian.
Yeah.
But then maybe that's because, I got my English family here who, we celebrated Christmas with them, but we also celebrated Ukrainian Christmas, which I thought was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you got two Christmases, two
Yeah.
Easters,
Yeah.
but not two lots of presents.
Oh, that's a shame.
My parents, sorry.
Sorry, I was saying before that only in recent times, and it was a real sort of shock to me, I'd assumed because I'd grown up with both cultures, so all of my peers had had that experience.
Yeah.
But it's only in recent times I was speaking to someone and they said, oh no, we never celebrated English Christmas at all, we just did Ukrainian Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's only now in recent years, this person said, we've only started, because my brother's recently started doing English Christmas as well.
Yeah. But I suppose you
I
wouldn't
was
know, would
really
you? If you
shocked.
didn't know the traditions, or perhaps your parents at the time didn't have British or English friends, or that you could take those traditions from, then you just go with what you know.
It's
Yeah.
just an assumption on my part that
But
if you
had
live
that.
in somewhere, you also pick up those traditions. But you follow both of
But
them.
if it wasn't, because I know
Yeah.
obviously with helping and befriending a lot of Ukrainians that have come over since 2022, like with Lydia and family, they've spent Christmas with us, so we've embraced some of their traditions on Christmas Day, or your traditions, but we've shown them different things, what we do as well. So
I think both parents being Ukrainian, well, I think it was as we got older, we got to understand what the different different traditions were here in England.
Yeah.
So then you started to do your traditional, perhaps Christmas dinners on the Christmas Day and that. But like I say, we benefited from having both.
Yeah.
And that's,
I mean, even my mum, she had two younger brothers. One of them and his wife and son, they always used to come for Ukrainian Christmas and Ukrainian Easter and loved all the food. The other one, not particularly. So it's sort of through the whole family, the English and sort of the Ukrainian side of the family, which is really nice
That's
that they've
lovely.
taken it on board as well.
But then you've all been able to embrace that, obviously, then in your more adult lives as well, I suppose, especially with marrying English guys, Christina
Yes.
and
I
Oksana.
think they've adjusted very well, really.
Well, well, Nigel actually, he became a Catholic after marrying me, because he wanted to become more. I think he just wanted to embrace the whole thing, the whole package.
I mean, with my mother being Irish, obviously her family was still in Ireland.
Yeah.
But although I was totally immersed socialised totally into the Ukrainian community, not much Irish. I'd got lots of Irish cousins locally, but I did see them, but not often. But I must give credit to my dad. He did take my older brother and sister to Ireland in 1953, so they could meet their Irish grandparents.
Yeah.
And I did meet them after that.
Uh-huh.
As well. But people always say to me, how come there's not much Irish traditions celebrated in your family? You used to get the shamrock on St. Patrick's Day or something like that. But, I said, my dad was like, really, everything had to be Ukrainian.
Yes, we were very Ukrainian with mum and dad. So
Yeah.
I remember that when I was a child going to school and all the English kids would say, "What did you do this weekend?" And I'd go, "Went to church." Then I went to school.
Yeah.
Then there'd be a concert after. "Did you play games at all?" "Oh, no." And if there was a religious festival in the middle of the week where you couldn't do this, you couldn't do your washing that day, couldn't do this.
So you observe
So
all the feast days.
All the feast days were observed.
So your calendar revolves around the
I
church.
even do it now, really.
Yeah, but your calendar revolves around the church. That's how you lived your life, really.
Yeah, around the church.
That was because your faith was central to everything. I mean, I've still got my dad's prayer book, and it's dated 1925, which is the year he was born. So I've still got his original prayer book. But for those in particular, I mean, I think can be said for everybody really, that it was a faith that got them through the difficult times, and it's always been central to their lives really. And that's what they've instilled to us as children.
Every year we had the house blessing. After Christmas, the house had to be re-blessed, and
because really the culture of Ukraine, it's very there's a lot of paganism attached to it, isn't there? And it's rooted really in the earth, because that's how they see it. That's where life starts. And then it's reflected in things like Easter egg paintings, the designs you'll see. There's pagan. So
no, I can see that. You're saying that, and things that I've seen over the last few years.
I was just going to say that we should, I think we all do, respect that, our parents' generation. If you think when they came over, they've got no generation above them to refer to. All these young men and young women who had to build their lives over here, what they actually built, the clubs like this one that we're in today, and the other club,
all the money that they
and
earned,
churches,
buying a church,
buying things,
buying a church,
Uh-huh.
so people could get together. We've showed great respect for them really, and what they lived through, what they've set up, what they've set up for the future generations. I know it over the years. There's more assimilation. Obviously, we're now on to fourth generations. It does get assimilated. But obviously now we've got the new influx.
That's right, I was going to say, since 2022, now, a whole new load of
and they come with different
people who
traditions.
a lot might end up staying.
Even
here.
different
We don't know, do we?
way of talking Ukrainian.
ours is very much the old-fashioned type of Ukrainian.
Slaviansky, as they call it.
But theirs is more modern. And sometimes look at us and think, I don't understand what you're saying.
So what has changed since 2022? What has changed for you, in your life, or just in your, in daily life, or just in mentally or whatever? Anything major changed for you as of being a Ukrainian in the UK?
It's made you realise how nationalistic you are and how much Ukraine, being Ukrainian.
Have you become more Ukrainian since then?
I think you reflect on life and being Ukrainian, but I think it's resurrected a lot of wants. Like for me, I'm exploring more of the Ukrainian music that's now being written, and I don't listen to perhaps the radio. I want to explore what new Ukrainian music's out there. And obviously, we are looking at the news, we are following what's happening. You want to help more. And I think for me, it's just like history repeating itself. And from experience, from what your parents have told you and shared what their difficulties were, you can relate to how people are today in some ways.
As you say, history repeating itself.
It is, and it's hard to sort of accept that that's happening sometimes. You think, because I don't think anyone expected it to happen, and as much as I miss my dad being here, I'm glad that he's not here to see it.
Yes.
When they've all been
I've heard
through
others say that as well.
when they,
and celebrated independence and
Yes,
everything.
Yeah, and
And
perhaps
the
gone
joy of
home
being able
for the
to go
first
back
time after
home.
50 years.
Yeah.
No.
So that was like my dad. That was
Yeah.
the first time he'd gone back in 50
Yeah.
years when it was Independence Day.
Yeah.
So he managed to go back
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, you know, we all looked forward to the day when we can go back again.
Definitely.
I think I was a bit surprised how I felt, because when the war broke out, I just felt I can't be enjoying myself. I stopped
No.
going to Zumba for about
Sure,
6 months.
Yeah.
I thought it doesn't seem
Uh-huh.
right.
No.
I stopped going to anything. I didn't go to regular things like Slimming World, but you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I've
I
heard
just
other
thought-
people say that as
I
well.
just stopped because it just felt so wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Why
felt very
should I be
emotional.
doing these things when I know that my, you
Other
know,
people are suffering.
of suffering? It was
Uh-huh.
just real, and that wasn't something I expected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I became completely obsessed with the news.
Mm.
First thing in the morning, I put the news on, and I used to listen to it or watch it sort of at most points of the day, even though it was exactly the same. And in the end, I had to stop for a bit. I thought, this is just too much. You know, it wasn't going to change anything. It wasn't going to make me feel any better, and it wasn't going to help them back in Ukraine. So then I sort of managed to sort of sort myself out and do it in a better way.
Yeah.
Because I thought I need to be able to support my family,
That's right.
and if I'm like that and getting myself in a state, I can't do that.
Yeah. And I know other people who said similar things. You know, not
They
to
call it
enjoy stuff,
survival
whatever.
guilt.
Yeah,
Yes.
But
It's called survival guilt.
They do.
But I've said to people as well, I said, but if everyone stopped doing whatever, even people that are still in Ukraine, because some people like look and see, oh, they're out in coffee shops, or especially in the West,
Yeah.
but even in Kyiv or other
They
places,
still
that
they have to.
that's
Well,
right.
that's
Because
right.
if everyone stops anything, then
Life goes on,
The
as my
aggressors
cousin
won.
says.
if everyone stops doing anything, even here,
Yeah.
yeah, because I know with Roman, he feels very guilty about lots of things, and but we say no. If you
For
stop
their
doing
mental
this, that,
health,
and
they've
the
got
other,
to try
you're
and
going
carry
to.
on,
That's right.
as if not as if life was normal, because we
strong.
know that it's not. But you know what I mean.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think it's hard for them when they're having to deal with, you know, they go to bed at night and they're woken up at whatever time with the
That's right.
sirens going off, and they're having to collect the stuff and
Yeah.
go down to the shelters and be there for hours. But it's sort of, it's hard for us as well, because if I wake up and I see the news,
Then
I
you're
know it's
worried
been
about
really
them.
bad in here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even ask the question now, are you all right?
No.
I usually just send a hug, a kiss and a
Yeah.
heart. And I've got out of the habit of expecting
Yeah.
to get an immediate
Yeah.
response, because I know that they might not be able to do that.
That's right.
and
the power or
the response eventually
anything
comes,
else,
and
just
it's,
busy.
we're all okay, but we couldn't wait for the morning to
Yeah.
end, for the nightmare to end. And I think they've got two little children, one that was born before the war and one that was born after. So one potentially can remember what it was like just to have a normal life, and the other one doesn't know any different.
No, and that's sad. There's so many
Yeah.
obviously children have been born either here, or Ukrainian children, or obviously in Ukraine. And I know there has been a bit of a baby boom. We've been asked for more, baby items, etc. at the hub. So, and mentioning the hub, obviously that's why we're here today, and that's how I know you four, because of the hub and how you all sort of migrated to the original building, to the cause, and found the hub.
It's one of those things again,
4
though,
years
isn't
ago.
it? You feel as though you need to do something to help.
Makes us feel mentally better if you think you can
Yes.
you're doing
Yeah.
something to help.
It's a way of
Definitely.
helping
Yeah.
them, because you
Yeah.
can't
For
do
sure.
it any other way.
And it is great help. We get the reports back, all the time.
Seeing
how
all those
much,
lorries
just to
and
give them
loaded
their-
that stuff, just
Oh no, it's
And
amazing
just-
that we're still doing it. One thing, we're still
Yeah.
doing
thanks
it,
to
but
Lan
we're
and
still
Stuart.
Yes, and
can
Phil.
do it.
And Phil, yeah.
But they just, and they just know, even if it wasn't for the aid that we're sending them, it's knowing that there's people here that is giving them strength to carry on over there as well. So, no, that's all good. So,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to have to wrap up. because we like to try and keep to a certain time.
But we do.
So
Ukrainians could talk for England.
we could always do a part two. Part of the subject you want to speak about with all together. So, but no, it's been great hearing lots of the stories and obviously
Thank you for
just
asking
tip of the
us.
iceberg.
Thank
So,
you for
yeah,
inviting
very
us.
good. Thank you very much. So
Thank you.
that's it for we're on episode 3, I think, at
We
the
are,
moment.
yes.
So next time, who knows what it's going to be? Who can I get hold of to find out some stories? Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.